We're going to be doing a legislative recap today. We're going to be talking about some of the things that passed and didn't pass during the legislative session that you all helped work on. So I know that it was a long session, and I know that it was a challenging session for a lot of us. There was a lot of really heavy discussion, a really important discussion about childcare and about access to reproductive health and a lot of other things that really are hard to talk about. So I think it was, an eye-opening session to say the least, but also we had some really interesting compromises that we were able to work on, including a compromise in education funding and a compromise on the ballot initiative for better boundaries, the Prop 4 initiative. So there was a really good compromise where both sides of the table, or both sides of the aisle, were able to come to the table and make some adjustments, and not everybody got what they wanted, but we all got what we needed, which is the definition of a good compromise. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things that happened during the session that were not those big ticket items. So first of all, I wanted to talk about the mental health bills that did pass. Representative Steve Ellison was able to pass mental health treatment and crisis services amendments, which will greatly help our communities for behavioral and mental health and help us create a triage system so that we can bring people who are in crisis to the people who can help them, rather than leaving them to their own devices and or putting them in emergency rooms, which often don't have the capacity to help somebody in a behavioral or mental health crisis. So we're excited to see that those passed, and we're excited to see that the legislature prioritized funding for those things. We were disappointed, however, to see that the mental health parity bills that we had worked on didn't exactly move forward in the way that we wanted to, but we are confident that we can continue the conversation over interim, and with your help, we can talk to legislators and key policymakers on how to make these adjustments that need to be made in our state so that we have more access to behavioral and mental health treatment, and so that we can utilize our insurance in the ways that are benefiting us. Those of us who need that access, right? Again, you know that we have talked about the extreme risk protective order ad nauseum, and unfortunately that did not get the attention that it deserved, and it did not get prioritized in a way that allowed it to be heard in either the Senate or the House, and we hope to continue those conversations over interim. We know that this is a really crucial bill to be able to prevent suicide and other gun violence incidents without actually depriving people of their Second Amendment rights. And we would welcome the opportunity to continue that discussion over the interim period. Speaking of extremist protective orders, there were a couple of other really good bills that would help prevent gun violence that were not able to get heard on the Senate, and either that is because of politics or if it's because of misunderstandings, we're not quite sure. So we hope to see a continued discussion over interim about these things. We know that these are really important, really difficult conversations that we can have in a civil way, and that we can come together as a state to find meaningful actions that we can take to reduce gun violence. We also know that this is a really big priority to people in the state, and that it's a priority to most people in the state, not just a handful. So we continue to encourage you to advocate for these issues, and we hope to see some movement. Let's see. In our environmental stewardship, we did not see a lot of movement either, and a lot of that had to do with budget, we think. Because there wasn't a huge understanding about what was going to happen with the budget, a lot of things did not get prioritized, which we would have liked to see the Cleaner Cars bill pass and get funded, but that wasn't a priority. We also would have liked to see an electric vehicle tax credit get passed, and that wasn't actually even heard. So these are issues that we can work on over the interim, and that you as community members can help talk to your legislators about over the interim period, and hopefully we'll see a little bit more movement on those next legislative session. Let's see, we did see a really cool school breakfast program pass, and that has a lot to do with people getting involved and contacting their legislators. We know this is a really important bill to help kids who don't have access to food at home. And we actually saw this, and you probably saw this in the news. This was something that was heard and didn't pass. And because of actions that you all took, it was brought back to committee and passed and is now the law of the land. So we will see kids getting access to breakfast who maybe ordinarily don't have that option at their homes, and it makes it very difficult for them to do well in school. We think this is going to be a really great way to help serve the vulnerable populations in Utah. And thank you, all of you who reached out and engaged with your legislators on that. That is a really direct example of what can happen when people get engaged in the political process. We did see the education funding bill and compromise pass, which we're really thrilled about and excited to see that on the ballot. That's going to be on the ballot this voting cycle. So be looking for that, and be looking for more information coming about that from Action Utah. In healthcare, we did see the healthcare waste calculator pass, which we're super thrilled about. This helps us as a state reduce cost, reduce the amount of money we're spending on low value care, and increase the amount of money we're spending on high value, high outcome care. We saw the insulin bill pass, which is a really big deal, and that had a lot to do with community members reaching out to their legislators. And then we also saw one of the e-cigarette bills pass out of the 3 or 4 that were being discussed, which we're also super excited about. We would love to see some decrease in numbers in youth vaping. Of course, we have a lot of work to do, and interim is a great time to do it. So if you would like to get involved civically, if you would like to get involved in these discussions with your legislators, please contact us. Continue to follow us on at actionutah.org and on our socials. I think we have a Twitter and Instagram, et cetera. And let us know if you have any questions. Let us know what we can do better to help you engage better with your legislators, and stay safe out there, you guys. 6 feet, social distancing, wash your hands, don't touch your face, all the things. Use the sanitizer, and let us know how you're surviving the quarantine. Thanks, guys.